Welcome back to the podcast. Another week. What's happened?
We hit 1,000 subscribers.
A big thank you, because we kind of did this little we just put it out there over on the other channel and said, hey, it's kind of like a milestone moment as far as like YouTube goes, and that'd just be really cool.
Like 100 of you. Welcome to the new 100 of you.
Yeah. All in like 1 week, which is really cool.
So we have made $4.
Oh, yeah. I was going to look that up. we don't actually know.
We're not gazillionaires, right? Okay.
It'll take maybe a month to kind of work out
how much our podcast will earn us.
And the way it works is it gets paid on like what advertisers or which advertisers will feel comfortable putting their ads next to your stuff. So if you're more kind of like extreme in your opinions or out there with different things, it might be less. So it might literally be like...
maybe it'll get demonetized.
$0.25 per view or something. No, we won't get demonetized. Hey,
that's where censorship's going, and we're right into it.
Some of the podcasts that we listen to, if they can talk about some of the things that they talk about, yeah.
Anyway, thank you.
Yeah, that was cool.
Maybe we'll make $20 a podcast.
Kind of besides the point, because we started this, and we've said kind of all along the way as well, like we don't want to be captured by the whole YouTube monetization side of things. So I think that would be very important for us to pay attention to if ever that's, like even with the sponsorship side of things, we said that last week. We did a sponsor ad read last week, but if ever there was a thing where they were like, oh, we want to go on an episode where you don't talk about this or you don't talk about that, it'd be like, bye-bye. No. Yeah, it's really important. There's this space.
But the reality is we want to make this part of our employment, like our self-employment. This is an online kind of, I don't want to say business, because that makes me feel like I'm disingenuous, and that is not what I want.
Yep.
But we do want to start to, branch out into some other areas. So
like merch.
And I'm doing some business forecasting at the moment, and I'm like, I don't want, because at the moment YouTube AdSense, with going from 2 videos a week down to 1 video a week, January is bleak. Woo-hoo, because we get paid, so you have the whole month, and then you get paid like on between the 21st and the 25th of the next month.
Yeah.
January is... it's not that views are down. That's not it at all. It's that we're making half of the videos. So January is looking a little
But that's okay. That was strategic on our part. Yep. We know that to do some of the other things that we want to do, particularly around building online community and really developing some useful resources.
We have appreciated
the time.
The time being back.
Even just to do stuff around here.
Yeah. Which is going well.
But we are looking at merch. So we put the feelers out there. We asked you guys what you thought, and overwhelmingly...
we've had a chat to a couple of people, and so I think this might be something that we actually go for.
Yeah.
Because what I was saying was, like, YouTube, AdSense, I really only want to make like 10 to 15% of our overall income. I don't want to rely on it. It's too volatile.
Yeah.
So we're like, well, maybe this merch thing could be a good idea. And there were some awesome ideas that came through. So keep them coming.
Yeah.
I'm looking into where and how, and do we go through China? Do we not?
Yeah.
Had a good conversation with our mate Noel the other night, and he got me thinking.
Yeah, and there's some great local manufacturers and good like shirt companies.
That's part of Kirsty's.
Those chickens are going off out there.
726 things that Kirsty needs to do. That's number 727.
I'm pointing it out because if you can hear it on the mics, and you probably can, there is a chicken that's obviously laid the mammoth of all eggs.
Or there's a goanna there.
Oh, that has happened in the past. One of those possibilities. Oh, there we go. They went quiet.
When we build our studio...
nowhere near the chicken coop.
Well, one of the things we want to do in the next month or 2 is actually take our chickens completely mobile and build a bunch of chicken tractors so that they are constantly moving onto new grass and everything like that. So
don't worry, we'll do a whole video on that on the other channel when we do that.
Yeah.
Yep. So
cool. So number 1, we want to talk about, yay, we reached 1,000. It just sailed past 1,000. That's what happens. We're about to, in the next day or 2, hit a milestone of 35,000 subscribers on our main channel.
That's cool.
I don't like saying main channel, over on our other channel. So milestones all around. Yay. That's exciting.
All right, what's been happening in the world? Little One Nation announcement this morning.
I wanted to talk about the comment section first. I feel like every podcast we could do like a little fun thing about the comment section.
Oh, well, I've got one. Okay, we'll talk about One Nation in a minute.
Because that video, because we did the video on preppers.
Well, we did a podcast.
It was the comment from last week's podcast that was like, you say prepper like it's a bad thing. I'm like, that goes on a shirt, I think.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So we did a video about that, which was it's actually starting to, today.
It resonated.
I've looked at the graph again and it's had a really big uptick in views. So it's going a little crazy over there on the other channel right now.
Yeah, right.
But it was a really interesting, some people were like, this is your best video ever. And I'm like, really? But it's opening a conversation that people want to talk about.
And I think because we talked about, so just to recap, if you didn't see the episode, we just kind of talked about the ways that we called it, we're building buffers, not bunkers. And that title was really intentional because there tends to be either you don't talk about this stuff at all, or you're the kind of person that talks about it and you're literally like arming yourself to the teeth and ordering razor wire for your perimeter and like, you're extreme. And
we're trying to normalise it a little bit.
Well, I just think if the last few years have showed us anything, it's worth being a little more prepared so that if the power goes off for half a day, you've got a solution. If, I don't know, like if the shops run out of stuff on the shelves, which we've seen, you've got a solution. So that was kind of where that conversation...
If the stock market crashes and... Oh, that happened last week.
Yeah. And your ability to purchase, your necessary items. So... that was where that video came from. And then we just got like this typical comment from, and like the title of the thing is Buffers Not Bunkers. This guy definitely has a bunker. And he goes...
Oh, he started out with, it wasn't not to be rude. Even if you ever say not to be rude and then you go and be rude, like...
yeah, I don't trust you.
No. He said, I mean no disrespect.
Oh, that's right. But you're forgetting one thing, if the SHTF... And I just jokingly said back, what, a raincoat?
I knew where he was going to go.
Oh, did you see? I had no idea. I thought he had like a handy little tidbit or whatever. And he comes back something like, no, you didn't mention what you're going to do about someone like me. I'm 6'4", 110 kilos, trained in MMA, and I'm sorry, but if my kids are starving, I'm coming out to your property. I'm taking what's yours.
Chop.
How are you going to withstand the 10,000 other people like me that want what you've got?
Do you know what my first thought was? I laughed and I went, should have watched our video.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Should have done something about that before you had to go chop, idiot.
Yeah, that's right. You wouldn't be in that position. Your children wouldn't be starving. And that was kind of the point, wasn't it? But it really highlighted to me that there is this thinking out there that says we're in this place where we are in the world right now. Things feel a little awkward and uncomfortable. A switch is going to flick. And there will be bands and hordes of warriors, like, road warriors on the street, like apocalyptic movie style where there'll be looting and raiding. And
there will, if that ever happens. And that's not even what we were talking about.
No, and it's not. And here's the problem with that thinking. That doesn't happen like a switch moment.
Sorry, mate, you're dying of scurvy before you ever get out here.
Hundreds of thousands of people will starve to death before it ever gets to that. And I'm not saying I actually believe that it will ever get to that. I don't think so. I just think that if it ever gets to that, they're forgetting this whole transition period of a decade or more that you have to go through where it doesn't immediately switch to lawlessness.
No.
There will be, trying to stabilise and restabilise.
Yes.
And in that time... sickness and starvation and all of these things will actually be way more of and it won't be like you'll just switch to looting. Like you're a goose. If that's how you are preparing, you're a goose. Because what are you going to do for the 10 years in between when it's not looting and raiding?
And I guess that's what we're talking about. Like we said last week, we're seeing signals that there is a destabilization that will naturally happen because all of the governments are in debt.
Yep.
And our government spends too much money on itself.
Yep.
And AI is going to disrupt the labour market which will lead to huge amounts of unemployment, which will lead to small businesses collapsing, which will lead to total disruption in our economy and in our country and in the world, right? That's what we're talking about. How are you preparing a more resilient life when that happens? So don't, like, it was just so dumb. I
feel for his children, honestly. Like, your father is not a thinking man. I'm sorry to tell you this, but he's the kind of person that thinks that he's going to be, when tough times come,
will be what
he's going to be able to switch to looting. Or his MMA training. That has going to have no bearing on the next 12 months, the next 18 months, when AI starts taking truckies' jobs. Like, these things are happening. That one actually is probably the one that I'm most confident is going to be the disruptor. Not that free speech laws are going to cause riots or that, government... I think some of that stuff is happening. Don't get me wrong. I just think the one that is set to destabilise the most is the most unknown in terms of its effect. We know it's coming. We just don't know exactly how it's going to have an impact and an effect.
Here's what made me sad. And this is probably the message that I want our platform to send, is now is the time to be more communally minded, not more divided.
I felt like that was the main point we made at the end as well.
I genuinely did think that. And it's genuinely what I believe. The way that we all thrive is actually not in, like, as a nation even, it's as local communities
100%.
who are in proximity to each other. And when we band together and when we look out for each other, that's when we win, not when we go and chop each other apart. Like, what actually do you hope to, like, you might go less hungry for one day or maybe 1 month. But if you create resilient communities of people that look after each other, then your likelihood of thriving in the middle of, let's say, chaos is so much greater. That's my message. Band together, don't chop.
Do you feel like there is a kind of a push, there's kind of like a current or a tide for people to feel antagonistic and tribal and fight-like? Like, I sense in the political landscape, the media, the way stories are told at the moment, that it's like something happens, immediately pick sides, here's what my tribe is saying, and you get riled up. And it's like people are wanting to fight. It's like there's all this unresolved tension and they just want to fight. And I mean, I'm on X a lot, and like X can be unhinged as far as social media goes.
It's very unhinged.
I've seen videos on X that I never thought I would see in my life. But a lot of it, in terms of like violence too, I mean, like just street violence. And I'm like, and I find I have to be careful, and I try to be really circumspect when I'm consuming media, because I'll watch something and then obviously that'll suggest similar things, and then I'll find that I'm getting really upset about these kind of people or people that are into this kind of thing, and I'm like, yeah, let's beat them up. I'm like, whoa, obviously not. But it's easy to get into that.
What do you do when that happens?
Well, like I say, I try to be really circumspect.
But when you feel yourself getting to that point of escalation,
I switch it off because, and actually, well, I was going to mention this. I'll mention it now. Somebody who summed it up really, really well. I've been looking for an explanation on this. So I listened to a podcast called the Dark Horse Podcast. A lot of you guys will know it. Brett Weinstein and his partner Heather Hine. And they did an episode this week on how quickly people jumped into one of two camps over the guy that was shot. I think it was an ICE agent shot a protester. The guy's name was
Alex
Preddy. Yeah. Down to, they showed clips, maybe this was on another podcast, but they showed clips from right-leaning media and how like this guy looked like a monster. And then they showed clips from left-leaning media, and it's like, I want to look like that guy. When like down to the photos they're picking at. But what Brett and Heather were talking about...
his picture was doctored.
Oh, yes. No, I did hear that. Yeah, they AI'd his picture. They changed his jawline
Made
and everything.
him look more...
appealing. Yeah, because we should have less sympathy for ugly people. Yeah. But anyway, the point that Brett and Heather were making were there is this thing in media now where you must immediately evaluate what you are seeing with your eyes They are manipulating your empathy and your moral compass to force you to pick a side, and then you agree with everything that side says. Despite the fact that you and I should know, if we just exercise reason and logic, if I'm seeing a news story account of a violent altercation, I wasn't there, I wasn't an eyewitness, and eyewitness statements are incredibly fallible anyway. So even if I was there, I shouldn't even necessarily trust my own eyes. What the media gives us is this keyhole view of a situation, and which keyhole they choose for us to look through. There's this meme, I'll share it in the notes. You guys will know it. It's this picture. It's this like black and white picture, and there's this cameraman and he's filming, and on his viewfinder you can see there's one guy trying to stab another guy. It's like a silhouette picture, but then when you look in the background you see the whole picture is revealed, and actually that guy's running away and that guy's trying to do the stabbing, but the cameraman has framed up this. It's clever, like it's just one of those clever.
Yeah, right.
And Brett talks about the he calls it the Rorschach manipulation. You know, Rorschach tests, the ink blot tests. It's what does that mean to you? That image there is like a Rorschach image.
Right.
You know, depending on how you view it is what you see, and this is what the media does to us. I'm going to change his jawline so that you feel more empathetic towards this good-looking guy. And then the other news will go, we're going to show him in ratty clothes and, you know, change the skin tone, and which they've done that sort of stuff as well. It's really important to understand you are being manipulated.
Yes.
And you live in an echo chamber.
Yes.
And the media that you consume is designed to derive an emotional response from you, because you know what you'll do if you get emotional about it? You'll want more. You need to now satisfy something that just became dissatisfied in you emotionally. And so you'll consume more, and the algorithm will just feed you more. And you get yourself into this loop, and I was having this conversation with our son this morning, like you can get yourself riled up about, it is important what happened. And this is what Brett said, a man died, and that is important. We should pay attention to that, and that is a tragedy. We should pay attention to that. Do we know what happened? No. One side saying one thing, one side saying another thing.
One side saying one thing, one side saying another thing in sound bites as well.
Exactly right. And so when you can and so I don't have an opinion on this one way or another, because I'm not getting into that.
No.
It doesn't really affect me. And I get that it could. I get that the bigger, broader picture could have implications if governments are allowed to blah, 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 you know, all of this sort of stuff.
There's a lot to unpack there.
I can't make a decision on what actually happened in that event because I wasn't there and I haven't done the investigation myself, and I'm not qualified to do the investigation.
And you don't understand the context.
But that's not what media reporting does anymore.
No.
Media reporting used to give you the facts, and then, you know, maybe there'd be an opinion piece, or maybe they would leave it up to you to layer your opinion onto it. And Heather talked about this because they're both scientists, and she said she went back over some of her notes from when she was early grad student, and she was studying frogs in the Amazon or something like that. And she would say she would note these two bullfrogs, and they would be like, one would jump on the other one, and she would go, it was my inclination to write down that frog is fighting that frog. And she's like, no. As a scientist, what I need to do is write down the observation. I noticed that frog jumped on that frog. I'll do the interpretation stuff later when I have all the data, when I have all the information.
Yeah.
That's such a balanced, like really measured way to look at something. We were in the garden this morning talking about what's going on with our garden soil. And I've just been thinking all of these things. But it made me think about this because we looked at some plants that were struggling and we were like, it must be this. And I just went, oh, that's interpretation. I don't have all of the facts and the data right now. I actually need more information to make a critical judgment about this. Anyway, I guess all of that to say, understand that you're in this feedback loop.
Yes.
You are being fed a narrative. You are in an echo chamber, whether you like it or not. Set yourself up with ways, like mental kind of eject buttons, where you can go, oh, I'm feeling this way. Close the lid on my laptop. I'm just going to go away and think about that for a minute and try to use reason and logic.
Go and touch some grass.
Yeah.
We taught our kids that with technology. Part of the education of, because we didn't just say our kids couldn't be on technology. That is both unsustainable. Like, it's not teaching them how to manage it if you just say not at all. So that our philosophy, and I understand people who are like, no tech, I get it. I really do.
Yeah.
But in our mind, they step into adulthood all of a sudden with no ability to engage meaningfully with it or to be able to regulate themselves within it. And we made them sign a technology agreement at the start of every school term, because we were homeschoolers, like school term. And we made them sit and made them read what they were agreeing to. And that there were amendments to it as they got older and as we kind of like observed. Just we weren't like hard and fast about it. It did evolve over time.
We let them take on age-appropriate responsibility. Yeah.
And we made them sit and we made them read it. Yeah. And for every, so there were 3 sections, and for every section, if there was a violation, there was a consequence.
Oh, that's right.
And one of the things that we said was, I will notice my behavior and my internal world when I've been on technology for too long, and I will act accordingly. And so then we said to them, when you feel certain ways, like we got them to name and really probe them for when you've been on tech for too long, if you've been playing Minecraft for too long, if you've been playing, what was that game that they always played? Overwatch?
Yeah, one of those.
Would scream at each other. We would say to them, how does that make you feel when you've been playing it for an hour?
And
I feel happy. What about 2 hours?
Yeah.
And then they would go, I start to feel angry, or I start to feel frustrated or anxious.
Yeah.
And so then, like, what are some things that in your body that happen? I get hot, or those sorts of reactions.
Yeah.
When that happens, what can you do? And if you decide before you're in that scenario what you want to do, then chances are your brain will go, I'm feeling hot. That means I'm feeling angry, or I'm feeling anxious. I'm going to go get something to eat, or I'm going to go to the bathroom, or I'm just going to do something different, walk outside, so that I can regulate myself. We taught our kids that from like early teenagers, right?
Yeah, because if they can do it in response to a video game, then they can do it in response to getting riled up on social media. Yeah.
They can do it in response to anything.
Yeah.
And the media is not there. I can't even call them journalists anymore, right? Propagandists, 100%. Because
they're click farmers. All they are is click farmers.
Back in the day, it was investigative. Like, bring back the old school investigative journalism that is balanced and objective. I mean, nobody can ever be 100% objective, but isn't bought and paid for by whoever is funding whatever they want them to say. That is not the media anymore.
Yeah.
And somebody commented on last week's podcast, what do you mean by mainstream media? I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Like, do you live under a rock?
No, I think a lot of people don't even realise that there are 2 diverging approaches to media now.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's that one has evolved into this horrible kind of beast of just click farming and emotion farming, and the other one is like what you're saying. Bring it back to what it actually was, where it informed people, gave them the facts, and helped them to unpack an idea or unpack an event and draw conclusions. Brett said this in his podcast.
And understand the responsibility that goes along with that.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? And I don't think most people have the presence, many people don't have the presence of mind to understand that they're being engagement farmed. So they don't take it on as a responsibility because they don't even recognize that it's happening to them. He said this, somebody is trying to use our own circuitry, our empathy and our moral reflexes to do their bidding instead of ours. That's mainstream media. If you want a definition of what's happening in mainstream media now, they're using your own internal circuitry, your emotions, your moral compass, your empathy, to engagement farm you so that you'll just consume more of their content because then they can sell ads. And unfortunately, that's what it comes down to.
It goes back to we are the product.
You 100% are the product.
Ever since Facebook became a thing, we are the product.
If there is a service that you use and you don't have to pay for, I'm sorry, but you're the product. Like you're being sold to advertisers.
Yes.
All right, well, that was a bit of a downer. Shall we talk about politics?
That was a good monologue.
Things we've been thinking about this week.
Well, the whole One Nation thing is quite an interesting thing to observe right now.
That's an understatement.
I think, and maybe you said this, like finally something seems to be happening.
Something different.
Yes. And I've been thinking a lot about this. I have been listening to, all of the same people that I usually listen to and a couple of new ones that I've added into the roster. It's interesting to see what's happening. It will be interesting to see how the Labor and Liberal Party respond.
Right.
One of the theories is all about preferential voting. Like, yes, it looks like One Nation is positioning itself, at least in the polls.
Yeah.
Take what you will about them as well. It's all conjecture and guesswork. It looks like they've been set up by the Australian people to be the actual opposition.
The opposition,
And so what that tells me is real Australians, not the media and not the people who are chosen to be interviewed. It's not random who gets interviewed.
Yeah.
It tells you that One Nation is still a fringe minority group. Do you know what I mean? Like, it tells you that the Labor and Liberal parties are still like the big two. But
yes,
what these polls are telling you is that the Australian people have just had enough and all of a sudden Pauline Hanson is the answer. I find that really interesting, and I think for most of us, if we would sit around the dinner table and every time we catch up with our friends or anything, most people would say the same thing. This is crap. Australia's going down the tube. Someone has to do something.
Yeah.
What can any of us do?
I think the difference lies obviously in where you place the blame, right? And that's just called your political leaning.
Yeah.
What do you think it means?
Well, like I said, I think Australians are finally going, we're never going to get the answers that we want, the representation that we deserve or that we thought we had through the major two parties, or the uniparty, let's call it that.
Yeah, the duopoly.
We have to do something different, and they don't represent the majority of us anymore, particularly regional Australians, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Particularly regional Australians. I think that they're saying they no longer speak for us. And I think that like her or hate her or think she's crazy or whatever, at least Pauline Hanson is saying things like Australians should put Australians first. And Australia should put its own country first. And she's asking the questions and saying the things that all of us are going, yeah, that's exactly how we think. And it's not lip service. Like, she's been saying this for 30 years or something.
Yeah. So I saw a post by Shallow Chell. What's his name? Scotty?
Scotty Chell.
Yeah, Scotty Chell this morning. And he just shared some of those kind of graphs and statistics and that. And he was pointing out, I won't read the whole thing out, but he was pointing out like how overwhelmingly a lot of the support is coming from Gen X. So Gen X is what, like about 1980
That's you. It's not me.
Oh, no, that's right. You're not. You're the next one, right?
I'm an elder millennial.
Okay. So Gen X ended at about 1980 or something like that.
Yeah,
so,
apparently.
Yeah. I never know with these.
I'm a zennial.
These Gen things.
I'm in the between a millennial and a Gen Xer.
So it's going to be people in their 40s, basically.
40s and early 50s, I think.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Overwhelmingly, that's where a lot of the swing in numbers has come from. Like,
absolutely.
where a lot of the support has come from. And I'll just read out one little bit that he said about why Gen X, basically losing trust in government. Gen X remembers when the country worked, and not because it was perfect, but because it respected limits. We also understand systems, incentives, and bullshit, which is why the anger isn't loud, it's very deliberate. We now withdraw loyalty, redirect capital, organise quietly, and apply pressure where it actually matters. This isn't a phase or a protest vote. It's a recalibration by a generation that has realised the institutions won't fix themselves and the people in charge are neither frightened nor competent enough to be trusted. And
neither
I think that's
frightened
why, nor competent
enough to be trusted. So there's no...
They don't listen.
There's no healthy respect.
Yeah.
or fear, like healthy fear of repercussions or if they do the wrong thing.
And it feels, it's not the same, but it feels a little bit like what happened in America with Trump. Just people sick of the system that wasn't listening to them. And there's this silent majority that are, they're not loud online. They're not the obnoxious TikTokers and those kind of people that the media give focus and attention to. But all of a sudden, you start getting these reports and these polls and these graphs, and you're like, well, this isn't lining up with what we're seeing. Well, that's because you're listening to only the squeaky wheel.
Yeah, so it's people like us.
Yeah.
You're probably in your real money-making years.
Yep.
You know, you've had your kids or you're in the middle of having kids and you're putting your nuts away for the winter. Do you know what I mean? Like you're still young enough to have the energy to really make a go of things.
Yep.
You're young enough to be able to really want your personal goals and ambitions to be realized. And this is where you're not young and stupid anymore, but you've really kind of got your future and your kids' future in mind. So you're working really hard and you're grinding really hard. But at the same time, a lot of small business owners are going, what is the actual point? Because they're taxed out of their...
Yep. Too much.
Every orifice. The boomers are retiring with all of their amazing wealth,
all their toys
that they've accumulated because times were great when they were our age. You know what I mean? And the generation that's coming through are following the script, but they are riddled with university debt that hasn't really gotten them anywhere. It's also brainwashed them into thinking that the earth is collapsing and they're all going to die from climate change because that's been the education policy. Oh, comment section's going to get me for all of this. But it's our generation who can remember a time before Facebook, a time when you weren't angry all the time, a time when Australia, you felt like you were bloody lucky to be born here. And now we're like, we don't feel like that anymore. And what's Australia turned around and done for us? Tax me harder. Take more of my money. Let's put up the fuel excise again. Let's put up the alcohol tax again. Let's put up the tobacco tax again because that's going so well for you. So no wonder it's our generation.
There's some jaded people out there, and
not jaded.
I agree. I don't
think jaded. I think awake, aware of going. This is going nowhere fast, and a lot of people will be like, "Take me back to the 90s."
No, but I mean jaded in terms of ripped off. The things we were promised. You know, social media was supposed to be this amazing thing that made us all more connected. It's made us more divided than ever before. That whole tribalism mentality is tearing that next generation apart. And the media and the government, unfortunately, are rubbing their hands together because they can manipulate that and use that to their advantage. And as you say, there's a generation, our generation, that are like, this isn't how it was supposed to be.
Nope. This isn't the dream we were promised. This isn't the Australia that we were lucky to live in. So I've been thinking a lot about this, and that whole the main message I want from our platform is that we are better in a community than alone, than divided. Definitely stronger together. And I've been really convicted, and maybe this is what we do, I'm not sure, but I've been really convicted about how uninterested I have been in politics up until this point. Like, honestly, it wasn't until Trump got elected the first time.
Because that was one of those moments. It's like, hold on.
How did this happen?
That's not how that normally goes. And
I didn't realise how uneducated I was about it all, right? And then I was fascinated with American politics and not Australian politics. And it wasn't until those 2020 to 2022 years that I started to go, hold the phone, what is going on here? And I really started to educate myself. And what I've realised is our system is built to not be engaged in politics because you have to vote, right? You have to vote. You don't get to vote. You don't want to vote. You have to vote. And you get penalised if you don't. It costs you money if you don't. So if you have to do it, like, why would you be invested in it? Oh, this is just like paying tax. I have to vote.
I don't want to get a fine. Yeah.
And then you turn around and go, the government's against me, like, you know, or the government's screwing everything up. But you didn't choose to vote. You didn't educate yourself about your votes.
Right.
You didn't become invested in who you were voting for. You just had to vote. So, and I'm not saying everybody, that's a very big generalization, but what I have been personally convicted about is, since this is becoming important to me, what am I going to do about it? So it's like, do I join a political party? Never done that before in my life. Do I go and start volunteering, like at polling booths and things like that? What can I do to move the needle here?
And do you think, and this might be a lot of this is overgeneralization. So if we say something about baby boomers and you get offended,
don't hate all baby boomers.
Just ask the question, is that generally the case? Younger people I was going to talk about.
Our kids.
Yeah, sure. Our voting age, right? Our kids are all just kind of entered into voting age in the last few years.
It's really weird taking your kid with you to vote.
Yeah.
Like, not as just your kid, but like they're voting too.
And I think historically you probably could have said that most kids would have voted in line with their parents the first few times they voted. Generalization again, but in terms of, yeah, you did, because that was the household you were raised in. It was the message you listened to. It was the conversation you heard around the dinner table.
I feel like my grandmother would have known by ESP if I voted for Labor, and there would have been a conversation.
So every family had kind of like their orientation.
Don't
and you just
vote
got
Labor.
Kind of into that. And, well, if you do, you do. Like,
no, but that in my family, that's what it was.
But I feel like there's a change, because when you were a kid, you didn't read the newspaper, and you probably didn't watch the 6 o'clock news, unless that's just you only had one TV in the house and that's what everyone watched.
And unless politics was something that you were naturally inclined towards.
Which is not a lot of people. Then your voting was majorly influenced just by what your family had always voted for. Now we live in an age where voting is very much manipulated.
Yeah.
Like, there is an entire machine, and if you don't think that elections are being interfered with, seriously, ask yourself the question, what are the stakes and what would they do? You'll just come to the answer, all right? It's super obvious. Yeah. Even if that is just through, as you say, propaganda. Now, I think it's way more than that. I think there's actual genuine election interference because...
Do you?
Of course, because the more that things become electronic and ununderstandable by the general populace, the more that you can, like, F with those systems, right? You can manipulate systems that people don't understand because they don't understand them,
sure,
right? So when it's paper cards and people have to count and there's people standing there watching how people count, and that's very simple and everyone can understand it. But the more that we move towards kind of like electronic systems, and anyway, that's way off tangent. I ask the question, ask yourself what's at stake and ask yourself what wouldn't they do. You'll come to the answer.
I mean, most people know that the 2020 election was rigged in America. It's coming out now.
Sure, but there will be a large amount of people who will want to stay in denial about that, because that's a scary world to live in.
Sure is.
But even if it's just propaganda, that alone is enough to manipulate and feed into election results.
Sure.
Especially when you're doing it to a generation whose minds are completely malleable, unformed, and all you've got to do is engagement farm them. Exactly what we were talking about with, what Brett and Heather were talking about. It's super easy to get an entire generation riled up and into a camp. You're in this camp, you're in that camp, here's our fighting words that we use. Generalization.
I would have agreed that the younger generation just votes with their parents.
No, I'm saying they don't anymore.
They don't anymore. And I think the policy decisions of, let's say the last election, Labor promised a 20% reduction in HEX debt.
Yeah.
Who does that affect most?
Yeah.
Young Australians.
Sure.
And first, make it easy to buy their first home with a first home buyer's grant. These are not long-term policies designed to build the Australian economy.
Yeah.
These are short-term bad ideas that are designed to win votes, right?
Yep.
So the 20% reduction in HEX, do you want to know what I learned about that? By looking at my own HEX loan?
What?
over the past 5 years, the indexation has been going up in increasing amounts, right?
Right.
So the 20% reduction basically just took off
what they'd added
outrageous rises in indexation that they'd added on.
Yeah. So they didn't give you anything.
No.
They just took back the punishment that they'd given you over the last 5 years.
But made it seem like they were giving young Australians something. And then the first home buyers scheme, you ask any economist or property expert, they have absolutely
stuffed it up.
Effed the market.
Yeah.
And at almost like the day after they introduced that policy came into effect, property prices rose by 50 grand. Like that.
Right.
They haven't made economic policies for the best of Australians.
So no change.
They've bought
votes. It looks good.
It looks good.
You can put it on a billboard, but there's no actual measurable change.
These hate speech laws look like they're
an appropriate
doing
response.
Something.
Yeah.
But they're not looking at the long term. There is absolutely zero vision. They are not looking forward to what kind of disruption is coming with AI. Absolutely not. All they're doing, and this is what institutions do, is they look out for themselves and they reinforce themselves and they make sure that they don't die. And you can tell that that's the case because last week it came out that the government have not overspent, but it's kind of a budget blowout. Guess how much?
What, in the entire budget?
In the last, was it the last year or the last 6 months of 2025? Something near $50 billion.
Oh, just casual.
$50 billion in, that we didn't account for that.
Oh, sorry, whoops.
Where did that come from?
I'll tell you where it came from.
The debt. It's just money added onto the debt. Now, I am no economist, but when I owe more money than I bring in, that makes me what? Insolvent. I am unable to operate.
It's about $2,000 per Australian if every Australian was contributing.
That they went,
that includes babies. Whoops, $2,000 out of every Australian's pocket. Wow.
And then they go, and guess what? Inflation's over 3%.
Yeah.
So there's my little rant about the government. Useless.
Well, and I think back to the original question, why is there this sudden kind of upsurge in interest in One Nation? It's because maybe it's something different.
It's like the death throes. If we try something different, will we get a different outcome? Because we've tried the difference and Labor and Labor Light are all the same, have been for the last 25 years. Yeah,
it's one party.
Can we go in a different direction?
Yeah, watch this space, I guess. And so, Cory Bernardi.
And this is where I'm like, look, I don't know. I don't claim that anybody's our savior anymore. Like, I look at everything with a healthy dose of skepticism.
Yeah.
I don't think that Pauline Hanson is like, the
be-all and end-all.
The be-all and end-all.
No, she's something different.
But she's a political figure that most Australians can go, well, Pauline, you haven't gone away in 30 years after everything they've done to you.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll give you a go.
So what do you think it means that Cory Bernardi's jumped ship? Switched sides?
Well, he isn't in Parliament. He isn't in the Senate at the moment.
I know, but he's long-time Liberal.
He's long-time Australia First.
So I think it's probably just a signal that there's going to be a groundswell of support.
I think
that
so
it'll
too.
come from supporters, voters, but it'll also come from, call it the political class as well.
So we're really looking seriously about membership for the first time in our lives.
Yeah, I've never been a member of a political party. And so it's an interesting thing to consider.
Yeah.
Because I've actually been asking myself the question, well, why have I never been? And I've voted in multiple different ways in multiple different elections. I've not ever been, I've always voted, purple, or I've always voted gold.
Last election, we voted below the line as well because we're like, you better be sure that every single one of our preferences is going to be counted.
Yep. So
That's our rant for that.
Interesting days
that
ahead.
was probably a little longer than we anticipated.
Well, that's all right. It's hot news.
Well, like, we didn't intend on being like commentators, but if we look at the signals that this is actually something that is working, like our perspective, especially our unique perspective as quite a libertarian focused freedom, protecting your own personal freedoms, like there are people out there who are quite, just your general Aussies who are not stupid, care about their families, care about their communities. I think the signal is that more people are watching our podcast. Yeah. So, like, we have to look at that signal.
And I watched this one guy this morning. Oh, man, I can't think who he was now, but he was on like a news show. He was being interviewed and he was kind of going on and saying, well, the average One Nation supporter is, a 55-year-old male that lives out in the country. He's regional based. He's white Australian. His whole family has been white Australian. He probably doesn't have a university degree. And you should see the comment section under that one.
That's a generalisation.
Well, it was, because then what I saw was all of these kind of Gen X aged people, male, female, younger as well as older, educated, university educated as well as not, get on and go, missed the point, buddy. That's like, that maybe used to be a meaningful thing you could say. It doesn't mean anything anymore.
Hang on. Isn't that the white Liberal Party? Like, isn't that the Liberal Party? Like, what he's describing, isn't that what we thought were the elites? Like, the best thing that you could be was, like, white, university educated. I'm being facetious.
Right. Anyway, before we go too far down that rabbit hole.
It works for you as long as it works for you, and then it doesn't work for you. Yeah.
So
there we go.
That's the political landscape. That's the podcast update. What are we going to talk about today?
The whole solar power off-grid thing there's been a lot of people contacting us about buying equipment, how they do this in an urban context, going off. Like, there's a lot of people that contact us about going off-grid.
Yep.
So we wanted to talk about it because we feel responsible, because we're saying to everybody, you should take responsibility for your own energy. Yeah. What does that look like?
What does that mean, and how do you do that?
So when you started to research it, you learned some stuff.
I have.
Yeah.
I did start looking into this because, as you say, a lot of people are now starting to come to us for advice. And I have to be very careful because there are new rules and laws and regulations around solar and installing all your own kind of, but some of the kit, like our sponsor from last week, that you can kind of DIY plug and play, like they're just consumer-sized devices, could go a long way to helping people out. And even in a residential or an on-grid kind of setting. And so I get asked quite a lot of technical questions and I try to answer them as much as I can. And that company, Blue Eddy, they're working on putting together like a whole kind of education portal to help with that, and I'm helping them out with some of that stuff. And so that's really exciting because it's what people are looking for. How do we do this? How do I understand it? One of the settings that's starting to become common in a lot of these devices, and I had to look into it, is something called a virtual power plant. Actually, I want to talk about two things that have come up, and they're all about how actually you might not be in as much control of your system as you think you are. And the first one's called a virtual power plant, and it's a setting that you can turn on or off, right? And so it's this has been around for ages, the idea that you could feed back your excess energy into the grid, right?
Well, that's how the whole solar scheme was sold to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the way that it worked originally, before batteries was a thing, was that you had solar panels.
Yes.
They went into a solar charge controller that could then basically convert it to mains power energy, and then that would go to what your house was using. That's called your loads. Or if you had excess, it could be configured to go back into the grid. The problem is our grid is stuffed. Our grid can't handle it. South Australia, this is particularly true. They have the largest uptake of solar in the country. And mind you, it's only 4 million homes that have solar in the country. That surprised me.
Really?
But a large proportion of that is in South Australia. They've done really well to implement solar. The problem is they can't handle it. their grid is becoming dangerously overloaded at points. And so in a moment, I want to talk to you about an emergency use authorization that they have implemented. Where have you heard those words before?
That's never a good thing.
But this whole idea of virtual power plants came in when people started putting systems on that included a battery. And what they wanted the ability to do was, because now that so all right, you're a homeowner, you've got solar on your system, you've got a battery, you've got quite a lot of control and ability to take responsibility and own your own energy usage, right? You can do a lot of really cool things and you can save quite a lot of money.
So you could, in effect, be off-grid and you still have to be on the grid.
Okay, so yes.
Like, technically you could, if you spec'd up enough, you could have enough battery storage to meet all of your own needs.
100% you could. That is exactly our scenario out here.
Well, yes.
Other than we fall short every now and then and we have to use a generator because we are 100% off-grid.
So if you were connected to the grid, you would just use grid power for that.
You would use grid power.
And you would be charged accordingly. Yeah.
What a virtual power plant does is it's an opt-in system that you can come to an arrangement, a contract with your energy provider to allow them control of your battery. So they get to decide when it gets topped up and when it gets discharged into the grid, not into your own usage. They look at your resources, your setup on your home as their equipment to manipulate. You voluntarily enter into this contract.
Why would you do that?
Because you're going to get some savings. Because they're going to, two reasons. Number one, they're going to guarantee you that over the long run, you're going to save some money because they are going to be better at managing your power usage and your power needs than you are because they're onto it, right? You're out at work or you're not thinking about it. If they're onto it and they can move and shunt power around, which is what's happening there, then in the long run, they'll put you in positions where you are using less high-cost energy.
Right.
And so your system gets kind of optimized and manipulated by them to save you some money in the long run. And it's true. In the long run, it does. I'll give you some numbers. For last year, now, this surprises me, and I want to know, tell me in the comment section if this is your experience, because it's certainly not mine. But mind you, we haven't paid for energy in a couple of years. The average Australian home in 2020, it was either 24 or 25. I'm going to link to all of this. I've done a ton of research on this, heaps of articles. The average Australian home paid $1,500 a year for power. That sounds really low, doesn't it?
We were living in a 50-year-old home with old wiring. It was $1,000 a month.
That might be, that was that unique scenario. Yeah. So, but what they're saying is the average Australian home, no solar, no nothing, $1,500 for the year. Just put solar panels on your roof, $1,200 for the year. Solar panels and a battery, $900 for the year.
Solar panels, as the costs of that infrastructure.
Well, yes, we'll get to that in a minute.
But that's rebated.
Solar panels and a battery, and you voluntarily enter into a VPP, a virtual power plant program with your energy provider, your average cost is going to be $600 for the year.
Cool.
Well, it seems cool, right? You're comparing $600 to $1,500.
So this is why you didn't actually prep me for this conversation, because you want my real authentic answers, don't you?
Yeah. I want to know what you think about this.
Yeah, cool.
It's not really a $900, is that right? $900 savings, because you were probably going to do solar anyway, probably going to do solar and battery anyway. It's really only a $300 savings. Okay. So just put that in perspective.
Over the year.
Most people probably, if they had solar and battery anyway, if they enter into a VPP arrangement, they're going to save another $300 on their electricity bill. The other reason that people might do it is because some of these energy companies will lock you into a really long contract, like 5 years or more, for the equipment. So I read an article of one lady. She's gone into this arrangement with her energy provider.
Like a lease to buy sort of situation?
Yeah, because they provided a battery that would have cost her $10,000 to implement in her system. And so without that battery, she can't get those savings, but she can't afford the battery to get those savings. So she enters into this arrangement, and the energy company now manipulate her battery usage. She gets the savings, but they get to treat her like another piece of infrastructure. And this is where I'm just a little bit concerned, because it seems good on the surface, right? It seems like the idea is you've got all these people out there putting in all this infrastructure, and they're maybe not the best people to manage it themselves. And yes, you can automate a lot of this stuff and program a lot of this stuff.
There is a little bit of work involved.
Yeah, and I've set up now, a bunch of different systems, from a full off-grid Victron system to Blue Eddy's big like standalone system that we're using in an off-grid way, but is supposed to be like hardwired into your home. You have no idea. Yeah, there's no instruction manual that'll help. And down to like some of the smaller units that we're using, which are very plug and play, like user-friendly. But they all still have a settings thing in the menu that you've got to go into, and you've got to set some of these things, like these virtual power plant settings. Now, I've turned them off on ours because it doesn't make sense, because we're not connected to the grid.
So this could never happen to us?
No.
Okay.
No. So it's only if you're doing a system and you are also connected to the grid. Mind you, as of, I'll put the date down in the notes down below. It's in all the articles.
What time frame are we looking at?
In the last year or two.
Okay, sure.
They've introduced new laws that the equipment that solar installers have to install on a home that is connected to the grid must include the ability to be remotely controlled for this other thing that I'm going to talk about in a minute, the emergency setup,
Doesn't sound good.
and must have the capability to do VPP. If it's a voluntary program that you can enter into voluntarily, why must you have that in the equipment that they're putting in your homes? It's not a conspiracy. It's like black and white.
There's no such thing as a conspiracy anymore.
So I read another story of a guy who went into this contract. These have been around for a little while now. He went into this back in, I want to say 2016, like 10 years ago, right? When this stuff started to become a possibility. And he said there were times where, and he was monitoring it really closely, where they would top up his battery from the grid whilst he was making solar power, and he had no reason for his battery to be topped up. The conclusion that he came to was they wanted it there just in case, like maybe there's bad weather coming, or maybe they're expecting sudden peaks or surges in power. They wanted everybody's batteries to be fully topped up.
Did he get charged?
He gets charged that, right?
Of course you would.
And so there were times where he was like, that doesn't make sense. Why would you do it like that? I'm getting charged for that. Then there were other times where they would use his entire battery and leave him with nothing. And he's like, half the reason I put this thing on my house was so that if there's a blackout or a power outage or something goes wrong, I've got a way to feel in control of my own system. But when I'm in this VPP contract, I don't get a say. If they decide to use all my battery power because the needs determine it, because they're working on what they're paying for power, right? These energy companies that you sign up for, they're paying
a wholesale
price for power. But if I can get it from you, because I've convinced you to go into a contract, that's for free. Not really if I've put the battery in for you, or if I've put but think about it. Their inclination to do this for you is not to do this for you, right? They are a company. They are making money. Their whole entire goal is how can we make more money and do less, right? And so if they can convince you to be responsible for the equipment, infrastructure, like all of that, they don't have to manage that, but then they can use it and manipulate it to their own advantage. And they can tell you
how people would opt into this voluntarily.
Because you're going to get a free battery, or you're going to save $300 a year, but what you lose is control.
Is your autonomy.
And my concern is what happens when they take those abilities too far. That, and people are saying that are on these programs, like your battery is measured not in terms of number of years, but in number of charge cycles, right? So we bought lithium iron phosphate batteries when we set up our system.
That's 1,000 charge cycles?
It's 8,500 charge cycles, around about 10 years if you charge up and down once a day.
Right. We don't charge up and down once a day.
No, we do. Yeah,
do we?
Yeah, the solar tops our batteries all the way up to 100, and then they take it down to whatever it goes down to. The point is you get them to 100% every day. That's a charge cycle.
Got ya.
When these companies are manipulating the power and shunting it around back and forth, they can be doing this multiple times in a day, and they're degrading the entire lifespan of some of these people's batteries because they're going through multiple charges. And people don't know this. They're entering into these contracts. They're thinking, oh, great, I'm going to save $300 a year, or I'm going to get a free battery, or they're going to do all this for me. And then all of a sudden, where you thought what you were buying was freedom and control over your own resource, it's not your resource. It's quite
the opposite.
It's not your resource. Yeah.
Isn't that fascinating? Random question for you.
Yeah.
Do you believe that solar is an at-scale solution?
How do you mean?
So all of these farmers that are getting their land taken off them for solar farms and things like that, do you think that solar at scale is a viable energy answer for the grid?
Yes. Yes, but the grid needs work.
Right.
I'm actually more of a proponent in the technology is cheap enough now. When I say cheap enough, and I get people in the comment section go, oh, all very well and good for you. You got sponsored for that equipment. Can I just point out, if they give me a free piece of equipment, that means I didn't get paid, right? All right. So I've decided to sacrifice income for a bit of kit that I would have bought anyway. So it works out the same. But it's exactly the same as if I'd taken an income and bought the equipment myself. Anyway, some people
we have spent we did spend the $30,000 initially 2 years ago on the Vitron setup.
Yeah. The other stuff that I've added into it, yes, it has been through a sponsorship arrangement, but I'm still out of pocket in the same way that anyway.
And if you're not telling the truth about these units, like people are telling us about and asking us questions. I'm thinking of buying this unit. Do you really rate it? And we are honest about it. And we've got people who are like, I just bought the Apex and the power went out and I had a lovely day with my aircon, watching the tennis.
That was great.
And drinking a milkshake, all because I had my Bluetti.
Yeah. And we get approached by other companies too and other battery manufacturers and that. And
we say no
because I don't. Anyway, this is not a sponsor thing.
No.
It's a credibility thing, though, and I just want to point out, yes, I would have spent the money anyway. We had to. We had to do upgrades to our system. We were looking for solutions for pumping water and that sort of stuff. My answer to your question, long way around, is I would spend the money on making myself more energy independent because I see where this is going. We don't have a grid that can handle the power needs right now. On windy days, it struggles because they've installed all these big flipping wind.
It's unstable.
Yes. It's completely unstable. My system, it's not.
So you would say solar for domestic, but not necessarily for let's power the whole state with, or southeast Queensland with.
What else would we do? Coal. Okay, fair enough. It's a technology that we have.
Nuclear.
I don't really see the point in building power plants. Let me make sure that I get this right.
You think solar power is going to run data centers?
Yes. Yeah.
Really?
100% it will run data centers. Do you know why? Because they will orbit them in space. Elon's already planning for this.
Regan.
Because you've got zero temperature. So you've got instant cooling up there. You've got no atmospheric interference to the sun, and you can put these data centers in space. The cost to run these data centers, he's already started to make plans for them, like these AI data centers and that, is going to be phenomenally cheaper than if you set them up in, brick and mortar on Earth.
Wow.
Float them in space. Why not? We've got the technology to do it, and the solar is right there. And as he says, all of the energy in our solar system is the sun, right? Or if you think of all of the mass, all of the mass of everything that's in our solar system. Now, this is a really hard thing for people to grasp, right? How big the flippin' sun is.
Yeah.
If you take Jupiter, which is the next biggest thing, Jupiter is just a rounding error. Like, the sun is 99.8% of all of the mass and energy. 99.8? It might be 99.9. Of all of the mass and energy in our entire solar system. If we figured out how to convert all of the mass of Jupiter into energy, like to burn it or whatever, or turn it into energy, it would be 0.2% of what we could make.
The sun has all the energy that we need to power everything that we need. We just need the technology to be able to harness it.
For millennia to come. Right? So it doesn't make sense to look at technologies that look at how you convert mass, coal, nuclear, whatever, into other forms of energy when you've got a free form of energy and an ability and the means and the technology to be able to do it. And when you look at the graphs of how the prices are coming down and how fast the technology is developing, how more efficient it's becoming, I put it this way. I don't foresee a future 20 years from now where any country is doing anything but solar.
Wow.
Because no other technology makes sense.
Like future-proofing.
Yeah, to future-proof.
Yeah, right.
Oh, the other thing about putting data centers in space, no cloudy days. Like, it's sunlight 24/7. So why wouldn't you? Now, you can't use that power down here on Earth, but you can certainly do all the data processing that is needed for where we're going in the future. All right, do you want me to tell you the other thing I'm concerned about? In Australia,
sorry, my mind's just been blown.
We have passed laws that are by the authority that looks into, and I can't remember, there's a 4-letter acronym that basically governs kind of how our grid, our energy is used in Australia. That body have passed laws saying that they can now require that people with rooftop solar have to comply with the ability that the energy providers now have to throttle their solar production. Because in places like South Australia, where they have a big uptake of solar, they have days where they, on solar alone, are making more than 100% of their energy needs. That's a phenomenal achievement.
I understand that, because I'll see you going, we're wasting power.
The curve has flattened.
We're wasting power.
Use power somewhere. It's going nowhere. That's not actually how that works in a grid-tied situation.
Yeah, right.
Off the grid for us, if
when
we
you're
get
at 100 and it's
if we get to 1 p.m. and the batteries are at 100%, you know what happens? My solar charge controller goes, I got nowhere to put this power. Don't take any more power from the solar panels. That's how it works in our off-grid scenario.
It just kind of overflows and goes nowhere.
On the grid, when all of these people who've been installing solar over the last couple of decades were convinced to do it because you'll get these rebates and you'll get these chargebacks where you can put your excess energy into the grid. On a grid that's getting more than 100% of its needs from solar, and that's not all they have, mind you. They've got other more traditional forms of energy production in South Australia. It means they've now got this problem where it's out of control. It's dangerously out of control, and they have to do something about it. So they enacted these laws called, make sure I'll tell you the right thing. They're called backstop. It's a backstop. They wanted to install a backstop. And the first part of the law actually makes a whole lot of sense. If there's too much energy on the grid and we've given people the ability to feed power back into the grid, let's give ourselves the ability to flick a switch to make sure that their excess energy isn't going into the grid. Sure, it sucks. They're not going to be getting power. They're not going to be getting money for the excess power that they're creating, but we don't need it, so why should we have to buy it? I can get on board with that. The problem is how far they can take these laws. And
isn't that the problem with every law these days?
They're also saying they've got other forms of ways that they can balance and maintain the grid first, right? These are just emergency powers, right? So they have come up with a set of rules around this thing defined as an emergency, and we'll get back to that in a minute, where they can decide when they're going to do that to people, right? And the first thing that it does is it just turns off your solar feed into the grid. But the other thing that they can do and have the ability to do now, and so this is everybody that's had rooftop solar installed since whatever date, I'll write it down below. It's in the last year or two. They can use these backstop powers to not only stop you making solar that goes into the grid, but they can force you to use the grid. They've got so much energy, they don't want you, who have an ability to just power your own home off its own infrastructure right now. They need to dump that power. And so these backstop abilities now allow them to control your inverter, which is the box on the wall, right? The thing that gives you the readout. Yeah. That tells you how much power solar you're making. That one box that they installed when they put your panels up on the roof, they put that box on the wall. It's an all-in-one device, right? But let's just call it an inverter. They can tell that inverter, okay, stop sending power into the grid, but they can also say, okay, stop taking solar non-stop, full stop. Turn off your ability to make this person free energy for their home. And you know what that does? It forces you into a scenario where you're now purchasing power. Now, albeit that's likely to happen in the middle of the day, right? Where there's a ton of excess solar power. And so your tariffs at the very least, your tariff's going to be the lowest. But it's not flipping free. My concern is these two abilities give an incredible amount of control for governments, energy providers, Big Brother, to step in and say, you've given us permission, or we enacted through law permission to be able to control and manipulate your devices. Now we've got other reasons for doing it because we've redefined what the word emergency means.
An emergency is there's too many sunny days.
The emergency could be there's a climate crisis.
Oh dear.
Right? The emergency can be whatever they want to make the emergency. It's the same as free speech, hate speech laws. You know, if you get to define what hate means, then you can charge someone with it. It's the same idea. If you get to define what an emergency is. Now, it's all very, you know, it doesn't have much meaning now because they would only use it in emergencies. That's what they're saying. And yet, some of these companies did modelling, right? And they said, well, how often would this happen? Because in the news, before all this came out, they were like, it'd be once or twice a year, if that. Then some of these companies did modelling and showed that for places like South Australia, in 2024, it would have been all of November and all of December, pretty much, if they had been given the full ability to do what they wanted to do.
That's crazy.
Add to that, it's not happening in this country yet, but it's starting to happen in places like the US.
Yeah.
They are starting to create devices that you have in your home that also line up with these abilities and these laws. Things like the thermostat in your home. Now, we don't live in a place where you can die of cold easily, like not right here anyway. And places like that
where it doesn't get to minus 20.
But where it's important over there, how much heat you have in your home or your hot water system. And I'm saying we as society blindly accept these things like smart meters. You know, we've got a friend that works for an energy company and she's telling us that...
No, it's everyone this year, everybody has to have a smart meter.
Wasn't it? At first it was opt-in. Yeah. Remember when they came in? Oh, it'll be great. You'll be able to get a more accurate bill. And then it was, every new installation, we're going to just do it for free anyway. You'll have it there anyway. Now it's everyone must. That's how these things come in. Opt-in. We're just giving it to you.
Idea.
It's a great idea. Now you must. It's happened with rooftop solar. You know, VPPs have been around for 10 years or more. It's opt-in. But why are they saying that the equipment must have it for all new installations? Because they're anticipating an everyone must scenario.
Right.
And then if they can add into that on a per device basis, like your thermostat or your hot water system.
Haven't they just done this in the US with their cars?
It wasn't the US, it was Germany.
Auto start their cars.
In Germany.
We don't have that here.
I think it was Lexus.
That, like, you would start your car to get the heat going before you...
Or to get it warmed up.
Yeah, to get it warmed up.
Yep.
And they are able to remotely disable that now.
Yeah, so you had these cars where you could go, you know what, it's 5 minutes till I go to work, I'll make a quick coffee, start the car while it's in the garage, remote start, then I'll go and get in the car. The German government decided that 5 minutes of the car idling in your garage was way too much of a contributor to the climate crisis that they forced Lexus to remotely disable that feature and correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section, I'm pretty sure it was Lexus, in all of their cars. That feature no longer available in Germany because we think it's producing too much CO2. All of these cars idling in their garages.
Okay, so if I was not living under your amazing energy stewardship, very thankful for you. And if I was going to put on some solar and batteries on my house, just little old Kirsty, I don't know I don't know anything. Yep. I can educate myself, but to be honest, it all is a little bit over my head. I don't understand it. I could work hard to understand it, but I'm probably going to get talked into something.
Yes, of course.
What kind of things do I need to look out for?
I think you've got 3 possible approaches to this. Number 1, just go with it. Who are you? You're little old Kirsty. You're really only doing it because you want $300 a year saving. You don't care about all of this other big picture stuff. Fine, go ahead with it. Do it. But what if sign up for a new system.
I'm really wanting my own independence?
Okay, well then you've got a different scenario.
Sure.
So option number 1, you don't care about that. You don't care about the energy independence. Sure, they're going to manipulate and use your battery however they want.
It works.
But
as long as you know it works for you.
You're probably going to save a few dollars at least.
Sure.
And you're going to end up with a system, that that lasts much longer than the thing that you're contracted to. Sure, okay. Option number 2, do it, but go into it eyes wide open.
Sure.
Understand they're manipulating you.
Yeah.
Understand that it's a 3-year contract, 5-year contract, whatever it is. Get into it, get the free battery, do the 5 years, and get out of it. And in that time, learn what you can about, like, get a system that you are going to be able to then manipulate and configure for yourself, upgrade, do whatever you want to it. But at least it gets you into it. Because what a lot of these people are saying is, well, I can't afford a $10,000 battery. And fair enough.
Understand
Who's
that.
got a spare $10,000?
I couldn't afford that at the moment.
No. And so maybe what you need is, and that's why these things are getting bundled with these rebate programs. Hey, the government are giving you 30% off of, I think it's 30% off of batteries, and we're going to come in with the other 70%, but you're going to sign up for 5 years on our VPP program. That's going to get you this system installed on your home. That may be the only way that you can get the kit. Just go into it eyes wide open.
At least you know.
Yeah, and at least you know. The option I would go with, start small, build your own. These devices are becoming way more user-friendly, way more plug and play, and it doesn't have to be traditional solar anymore. And so, like I said, with some of these like all-in-one standalone devices that we use on our property and that we've been promoting, you can literally wheel. I've got a new one that we're promoting next month. It's like a suitcase. It's got the pop-up handle. It's got wheels. You can literally wheel it into your home and plug it into your wall. And the first step I would do, and I've said this multiple times, is just use it to start to manipulate your energy buying power. You're on the grid, that's fine. Have your grid, and then use it during the day, top up its battery during the day when the power is cheapest. And then at night, wheel it into wherever you use the most power. Maybe it's the kitchen, maybe it's the living room, whatever, maybe it's your hot water system, whatever you want to just physically plug into, and drain that thing's battery when the tariff is high. You're going to gain a little bit more energy independence, and they can't control that.
Yeah. It's
a standalone device. You own it. You can go into the settings and say, I'm not doing any grid like energy buying, energy selling. Like, it's not hardwired in. No solar. See, this is the problem. All new solar installations now, rooftop solar installations, have to be done by a qualified solar installer, and they are obligated now, like legally obligated, to follow these rules that put in these systems that are, because they're hardwiring them into the grid, that are compliant with these new rules and with these new ideas and these new technologies. If you can do it in a way that doesn't hardwire it into the grid, if you can do it with one of these standalone units, then that's awesome. Second thing I would do, I would start to learn about plug and play solar panels. Like, you can literally go to, did that just flick over that camera lens just then? Maybe.
If you just saw one of our blankets, it means that our voices don't reverberate.
Because we're in
off
a
of
tin
this.
room.
Yeah.
There's like towels and blankets. Anyway.
All of my beautiful blankets.
Someone told me the other day you can go to Bunnings now and buy solar panels. I don't know that I've actually seen them.
Yeah, one of the comments on last week's
I
video
actually
for like
need to check that out.
$120 each.
Like, whatever it was El cheapo.
Yeah.
Right? You can get very plug-and-play solar panels, and some of these devices, like these units, these standalone units, and it doesn't have to be Blue Eddy, it's just because we do Blue Eddy. A lot of them work the same.
Whatever works for you.
Whatever works for you, I just know that gear now, are designed to you yourself. You don't need to be an electrician. You literally take the solar panel that's got a standard kind of connection in it, and you plug it into the device. And now, not only do you have a battery where you can shift your ability to buy and use energy, now you've got an ability to top up its battery from not just the grid. If you've got any little bit of a backyard, you're starting to get into territory here where am I allowed? And I want to be careful not to give advice here. So there are off-grid setups, there are camping setups where you are 100% allowed.
Fully.
I would imagine the minute you build a structure for it, an array mount, or you go and put it on the roof, you're possibly entering into territory where you're not allowed. And so I'm not going to give any advice there.
I'm sorry, bullshit.
Of course it's bullshit, because the only reason they put those rules in place is not because, sure, okay, it's DC current, it's dangerous, it arcs, you can start fires. There are ways you can get it wrong.
And if you do it wrong and they blow off and injure somebody,
but if that was true, you wouldn't be able to buy a folding solar panel from four-wheel drive supercenter and take it out bush and use it to run, all of this off-grid gear that they sell in camping stores. So you have to go, is it true or is it bullshit? I'm pretty sure it's mostly bullshit, all right? Yes, you can get it wrong. Yes, you can start a fire. Yes, you can melt things, right, if you get it wrong. But a lot of this gear now is starting to become very plug and play and very user-friendly. And that would be the next thing I would do, is look at how can I set up some backyard solar panels safely and following the law.
And following the law.
And plug them into one of these devices that I didn't have to get an electrician to install, that's not part of my grid-tied system, right? That would be one way that I'd look at it. The next way that I would look at it, if I was on the grid and I had a friend that was a Sparky, and they're going to do, they have to comply with code, right? They're not going to do anything dodgy. I would ask them to install what's called a changeover switch. Now, I know about this because we worked at a facility that was rural, and sometimes we would lose power, and we couldn't afford for the power to be gone because we were running incubators and all sorts of things, freezers.
We were running a commercial kitchen and
giant
freezers.
Cold room, right? When we had to turn the generator on to supply power, the electrician installed what's called a changeover switch, and it literally changes you over from the grid to whatever other source of power that you have got there. Just because they're saying that the rooftop installers have to install these compliant systems that have the ability for them to remotely control, doesn't mean right now you have to have them configured that way.
Right.
Yes, they have to wire them up in such a way that they could if they were tied into the grid, but I wouldn't tie them into the grid.
Right.
I would have in my home a completely standalone system as though it were a generator with its own batteries and its own solar panels and its own solar. And this is why I love some of the Victron gear. And people gave me shit in the early days because they're like, oh, that blue stuff, that's expensive. Yes, it's expensive, but it's highly configurable. I can set it up. I can, get an electrician to do the wiring, of course.
Which is what we did.
But I get to do the configuration. There's nobody remotely dialing into it. Now, a caveat, I do have...
We have chosen for that.
I have given my local off-grid shop the ability to dial into it, but they can't actually change any settings without my say-so either. They can go in and tweak things for me and go, oh, you've got new batteries. Here's the, configuration specs for those batteries. I'll update that for you. They're not going in there and going, we want some of that, and, siphoning off some of my battery power.
There's no way for them to be able to do that.
I'm not connected to the grid, so they couldn't do that. What living off-grid has told me is that, and what I am doing is 100% legal. If I could take my system here and transplant it into a backyard in suburbia, I would have 100% autonomy over my energy production needs. And they can't touch that. And I don't trust that they're not going to continue to put their fingers into your system and manipulate it in ways that you haven't even thought of yet.
You still have to pay a supply charge. Even if you're not paying any electricity, you still have to pay a connection charge to be on. It doesn't remove it all completely.
No, it doesn't. But you'll get full autonomy
You're
over
really
your own energy.
You're really passionate about this, aren't you?
I just see how these systems get manipulated over time, and this one's a cash cow for the government because they don't have to implement the infrastructure. They can just provide rebates, which is another way of them saying that if they provide the rebate, but then they get access to control your system, they didn't really give you a discount. They gave themselves a discount because they made you pay for 70% of it.
It really is a Ponzi scheme, isn't it?
So they made you pay for the infrastructure that they get control and authority over. They didn't give you a discount. They gave themselves an ability to fix their own stupid grid, which they need to fix anyway, which, hello, what are my tax dollars for? Well, the problem with energy is, we deregulated that 20 years ago. And so the government isn't responsible. But people still look to the government for answers on this because, and it's a weird one, isn't it? Because I look to the government if my water stops, and not me because I'm off grid, but if I'm...
To your local council if the water stops.
But I look to a governing authority, a body. If the water stops flowing, if the garbage stops being picked up, if the sewer blocks up. Why did we do that with energy? Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. So
wow.
there you
Okay.
go.
There's a little bit of information to arm
Lots of food
yourself
for thought.
with.
I am going to put a ton of articles and links and research and stuff that I did to look into this one. I had to look into it. We're off grid. I didn't have to look into it for myself. I had to look into it because this gear that we're promoting has some of these functions and abilities built into it, but they are optional.
Yeah.
You can turn them off.
So if we were on grid and we wanted to be off grid, that is what we would do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as much as possible.
Yeah.
I would make my battery my own.
Yeah.
I would make my solar panels my own.
Yeah.
They're not really paying good money for the energy that
It's
you
not
feed back
worth
into it
it.
anymore. It's not worth
What's the
it.
price of your freedom?
Yeah. That was the dream back in the day.
Yeah.
That's how they sold it. And again,
Like
it was
everything,
a
it's
way to
been
convince
mismanaged.
people to put, all 4 million homes, to put solar panels on their roofs. No, it hasn't been mismanaged. They've achieved exactly the outcome they wanted. They've outsourced their responsibility for, if Adelaide or South Australia can produce more than 100% of their power needs on some days, they've achieved their goal.
Yeah, right.
And they didn't have to
a good
spend any
point.
money on infrastructure.
But it's not actually achieving the goal, is it?
No, because it's gone too far in the other direction. So now they need more control and more ability. Goes
There's that blanket again.
our little blanket.
Well, I think we maybe leave it there.
Yeah, I'm keen for your questions and your comments. I'm by no means an expert. I've set up my own off-grid solar system. I'm obviously keenly interested in and invested in these standalone systems because I think they're a solution for a lot of people. I get that they're expensive.
Yes.
I do think in the long run they'll save people money, but more importantly, I think they'll buy people a lot of freedom over their energy needs. But hit me up with your questions.
And as always, do your own critical thinking and your own research and don't just take our word for it.
Yeah, and don't share stuff that you heard online. Tell us what you actually know.
Yeah.
Like if you've got an answer or if you've got a solution, I'm more keen to hear about it
Yeah.
from someone who's doing it
Yeah.
than, hey, I watched this video of this one guy in Canada.
Chances are we've watched the same video. So, shall we leave
Until
it
next
there?
week, see you later.